This week in movies, we are talking about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, based on the book by the same name. It is the 6th book and film in the Harry Potter franchise. It's directed by David Yates, who did the last one and will be doing the following two, the last of the movies. The stars are all the same.
Well, we got a new one, Jim Broadbent.
We got one new one, Jim Broadbent. Yeah. As far as everyone else, everyone returns.
Yeah.
And
has there ever been a film series that's really?
No.
A 6-part of one story?
Yeah, no, I mean, the closest that you come to this is James Bond or
that's
Tarzan
not even close.
serials. Just those are episodic, but right, it's not one. This is the farthest we've ever got. I believe. I mean,
unless you can say Star Wars
movies or.
Well, even then, that was 6.
Star Wars was 3, and then they went back to prequels, and
yeah,
it's not one
one
continuing
story, kind of.
Sort of. Yeah. Not quite
it's
like
debatable.
this though.
Yeah.
So
same characters and same.
Yeah. What did you think of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? And these two blokes have read all the books.
You can call us fellers.
This guy has not. So
you haven't read any of the books.
I've read a little bit of the first one when it came out.
It's good.
And then I realized it was just like A Wrinkle in Time, and I said, F this.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's a completely different experience, I would suspect. Someone who knows the story versus someone who doesn't. And for me, the joy of these movies now is watching these incredible British actors work. Jim Broadbent is phenomenal. The character stuff that he does in this movie is great. All the adult British actors that you get to see working, it's just a treat because it feels like they leapt in with both feet to these characters. And I think the movie is shot beautifully, beautifully. There are some wonderful visual flourishes. An example of which, one of my favorite moments, is right near the beginning, and we're in the Weasley house, and people hear that Harry Potter might be there, and there's this great shot looking up in a multi-level Weasley house, and these heads kind of pop out in different ways. It's just this really great comic visual gag that it just shows an inventive mind at work directorially. You know, this movie takes a lot of liberties with the story, but I don't watch these movies anymore for the story. I've got it. I have it. I know for me now it's the visual ride of seeing the stuff in my head come to life, and I fill in the gaps where it's missing. So I can't really speak to how well the story was conveyed, but I had a great time watching the movie.
I can't wait to hear about that.
From you?
No, I can't wait to hear what I missed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think this may be my favorite of the Potter movies so far. It was definitely not my favorite of the books, which is interesting.
What was your favorite of the book?
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay.
Yeah, the 3rd book was my favorite by far. I actually I'm not a big fan of where the series went in 6 and 7 because of the fact that everything else was sort of, here's the Hogwarts story, here's the next year, and the next year, and then all of a sudden it was like, now it's just this other totally different story, which is crazy and fun and cool, but I always liked the fact that it was sort of always brought back to this school in the previous books. That said, this movie is gorgeous. The kids have really grown into their own as far as their acting abilities go. I mean, when you watch the first Harry Potter and watch this Harry Potter, I mean, you just don't even, you forget that it's kids. I mean, these guys are really top notch. There are some epic moments. The cursing moment that happens is like, huh, what movie am I watching? There are a couple scenes where it's like, what am I watching?
Kind of horrific.
Yeah,
almost.
in a great way, because that's what it is. It's like this, you know, childish fairy tale offset by this horrible stuff that's happening, and I think it's the first time that you really get brought into the sort of depth of what is actually going on in the sort of evilness that's brewing underneath. And I'm excited to see the next 2 movies. I think are going to be extremely dark and extremely edgy.
That's true.
So yeah, I had a blast. I mean, it's freaking Potter. What do you want?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the Harry Potter movies. I never would say that they're great movies or I love them or whatever. I think this one, you have to have, when I heard really positive things about it, I was excited that maybe this could be a Harry Potter movie where you don't have to have seen it's like Casino Royale or whatever. Like, you don't have to see, it stands on its own as a good movie, let alone a Harry Potter movie or whatever. It's not that, but it is the best one of the series. I loved it. I'm actually thinking about seeing it again for some weird reason, like it's that infectious. I agree with all you guys with all that you've said. The acting, these kids finally, not only was their acting phenomenal, but also finally story-wise, they are people. It's finally a movie about people. It's not just pawns in the plot of the Harry Potter movies. It's like they're fine. I actually think that last week we reviewed 500 Days of Summer and spoke about how amazing it was as far as informing relationships. And this movie had equally as profound things to say about relationships and friendships, and it does things that that most movies don't do about those stories. It doesn't do the John Hughes mechanic of how relationships are formed. It's a little bit more true to life.
And let's just say, best Quidditch
definitely
representation
footage,
ever.
Definitely.
There was some great stuff, but and also, the cinematography was the best cinematography probably of the past 5 years of any movie, certainly of the Harry Potter franchise. Bruno Del Bonell did the movie Amelie, which when that came out, all of us were mimicking the stuff he had done in Amelie. And now with Harry Potter, I mean, nighttime in this movie, there's things are happening that you guys don't even realize, or many people probably don't realize is happening. The nighttime look in this movie is completely unique to any other film. It is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the score too, you know, this guy has taken over for John Williams, as other people have in the other franchise, but he did the last one and this one. And there's cues in this score that aren't in the other films that I think is better than the John Williams main theme.
I disagree slightly with the relationship comment. I don't think I would go as far as you in praising the way the relationships are handled. I think it is a little soap opera-y, a little. I mean, they do it. It's not 500 Days of Summer subtle or profound, but I will say that it's interesting that this movie, especially compared to the last one where we had a really big action set piece at the end, which I really enjoyed.
There isn't much action in this movie.
There isn't, there's almost none.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the book has a big action set piece at the end, and they took it out, which is shocking.
Yeah, I was sort of wondering about that because I kept going like, this is how like, I think it actually, one of my problems that I had with it was the fact that the ending of this movie didn't land on me as much as I thought it would.
Well, you knew going in what it was.
But but the ending of the last movie landed on me, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. And I don't know I don't know why that happened. But there were some. I mean, talk about the cinematography when it cuts. You know, it's like two shot of this sort of like back and forth duel. You know, magic duel, and then all of a sudden, extreme wide shot with a last hit thing. It's like, it's almost like I'm in a bushes watching wizards fight. Like, awesome.
My point about the removal of the action set piece is that it's interesting that this movie seems much more subdued. It's much more about discussions between people, and it's interesting that it works on that level. That it's still as engaging and a 2-hour and 40-minute movie, which I think it was what it was, is still interesting to watch and doesn't get boring when you
I think the next ones are going to action up the bump.
Well, certainly the end of the 7th book.
Yeah, of course.
It's almost like when you watch a movie like Hotel Rwanda or State of Play or 3 Days of the Condor, when you watch these political thrillers where it's all these heated debates and you come away feeling like you just saw an action movie, though there's no battle sequence or anything. And that's what this movie was like. Good point. Anyway.